bit of a weak card for a 2/1 flyer flash, but the effect is powerful. It kind of doubles as a removal spell against Zergo decks. Even you can catch their best guy off guard.
Yeah. So maybe we could present the boss commanders for people who don't know them well. So Geist is for 1 colorless, 1 blue, and 1 white, 2/2 hexproof. And every time you attack, you get 4/4 angel flyer attacking that is removed from the game at the end of the phase, and that you can keep with some spells like Stifle or Trick Bind.
It looks like Nicolas leads on a silence against Sigarda on turn 1.
Yeah, so he didn't want it the turn on elf, I guess. That's interesting because silence isn't played the same way by everyone. Some people prefer to play it on turn 1 to prevent the elf from coming into play, but some others, for example, want to play it, for example, on turn 2 to prevent a Yisan or something like that, and some others want to play it on turn 3 to prevent a Titania or a Sigarda in that case. What's nice here is that he probably didn't have any counter spells for 1 mana to play. So playing Silence allows him to prevent anything from coming into play on turn 1. And that way, he also manages to keep his opponent with, well, not many manas, so that he can be sure to counter the next spell with Miscalculation. And,
right, now I'm wondering what this altered card here is in the center of the table.
Yeah, same question. So I hope Guillaume can answer us. So to answer Stegasin, there's no lag on our side, but there may be some delay between the image and our sound, because sadly we were commenting from distance, so we can't do much about that. It should only be a 10 seconds delay at best. So the altered card is supposed to be Sakura Tribuilder.
No, he paid 3 mana for it and Geist and attack. I don't think it's
so. Yeah, so Guillaume is just bullshitting us, and that's not nice.
And once we get confirmation on what that 3 mana card is, we'll evaluate the situation here.
And it's big enough to hold Guest of Sancraft, so it should be at least 2/2.
I just saw a peek of Anafenza Kintree Spirit in Alan's hand, so he'll be able to bolster his team up, which will be very good versus Geist if he manages to remove the natural 2/2s. He'll at least get that Fyndhorn Elves up to a 2/2 to block Geist as well.
Do you think he's playing some kind of combos with Kitchen Things or something like that?
Is it possible without the sacrifice outlets in the deck, like Viscera Seer?
He may be playing on an altar or something like that. Maybe it's bad. So end of turn Ripples on the Khazali Pride Mage or Pride Mate, something like that. So he draws and bounces it. Their starting hands were on Alan's side, Avan Mind Sensor, Khazali Pride Mage, Sword of Feast and Famine, Sylvan Caryatid. The land he played on first turn and the plane from turn 3, and
here comes
the last card in his hand was Sakura Tribuilder. He just played.
Okay.
That's what Guillaume was saying.
It looks like we just
put the altered card.
Put Griff's Boon on Geist Sancraft. Griff's Boon is a 1 mana enchantment, just a cost of white. It's an aura. It gives a creature +1, +0, and flying. And then you can also return it from the graveyard to attach to a creature on the battlefield for 4 mana. So that's a pretty good way, an efficient way to get Geist through ground blockers.
Yeah, and what's nice is that Sigarda probably plays many dissension spells, like Revocation Sage, to get rid of Guest's protection. The interesting thing here is that Nicolas François can maybe not even counter those spells, because he can bring back directly his enchantment and keep swinging with Geist. And Alan seems to be facing some mana troubles. He has a Galactic in hand that we didn't already know. And Nicolas' starting hand was Miscalculation, Plane, Silence, Tundra, Repulse, and an Island.
And Alan, it looks like Alan's going to have only a few turns to try and get stabilized here, because he's looking at 7 damage a turn.
So Scavenging Ooze.
Now, the Scavenging Ooze will help there. He'll be able to exile the creatures in his graveyard to gain some life back. But I have a feeling this Aven Mind Sensor is either going to make or break this game by blocking the Geist.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed, the Aven Mind Sensor could help. The issue is that he doesn't have much mana. And I see some counter spells in Nicolas François' hand. So that game might already be over.
Here comes the Venser, bouncing the Scavenging Ooze to prevent that life gain. And Geist bashes in again for a total of 7 damage with the Angel, bringing Alan down to 6 life.
Yeah, so next turn is the end. If Alan doesn't manage to do anything strong, and the issue is that he doesn't have mana to make sure his Aven Mind Sensor goes on the board, or to make sure Sigarda does, because Sigarda is a 5/5 flying X-proof. And your opponents can't make you sacrifice any permanents, which is nice against Emrakul.
Yep. And there's the game.
Yeah, yeah. So indeed,
so we saw
for Nicolas François.
We saw some mana troubles there from Alan, but he did keep a hand that had a Sylvan Caryatid, but that was hit by a miscalculation early. So I think if that Mana Dork had resolved on turn 2, the game might have turned out a bit differently. But that's why Geist of St. Traft is one of the top decks in the format. It can interact early and have a very quick clock, as we saw there. That was turn 5 or 6, I think, by the time the game ended.
Yeah, refresh the stream to make sure I'm up to date. And there's a good question from Fabio from the Rules Committee, who's asking if Mundus goes on camera twice and gets beaten twice, will you offer a Recurring Nightmare to each of the player who managed to defeat him, or only to the first one?
If Moondust goes on camera twice, I only have 1 Recurring Nightmare, but I do have a copy of Yawgmoth's Will. So we'll go with that.
My God, you lose your entire collection. Let's hope that the Rules Committee members will win. Or you lose plenty of cards.
No, I want them to lose. I want to give away cards.
And what happens if 2 committee members face each other? Does it count or not?
Oh, of course it counts. Okay.
Yeah, Asimov is talking about the matchup, and I kind of agree with him. The issue is that Sigarda is far too slow, and that's not the commander you want to have, well, in the format, and even less against Geist. And the issue is that the newest guest list play many bounces spells, counter spells, cheap removals, cheap ways to make sure that Geist can attack and that your opponent can't do anything. And that's exactly what happened here. Even with some more manas, Sigarda could probably only play 1 card a turn, or maybe 2, but only 1 relevant, and that's not sufficient to beat Geist. You need to play much more, much more relevant cards if you want to have a chance against Geist. And that should sadly end up in a 2-0.
And all of Sigarda's creatures that are 2 and 3 mana that pair up against Geist are not going to be as good as Geist in a vacuum. And you have to be able to resolve them and trade them off for Geist. And that just it's so seldom going to happen that the Geist player can just wait the Sigarda player out, make sure that Sigarda herself never resolves, and get in for the win eventually. So unless the Sigarda has some sick tech that I'm not aware of, we'll see.
Nicolas François' starting hand is the Swords to Plowshare, Mystic Gate, Balance. How do you say that in English? I forgot the name.
It's in French, so I'm not sure what card it's supposed to be.
Absent, unexpectedly absent.
Unexpectedly absent, yes.
Yeah, a plane and a oust.
Well, with just a Mystic Gate as a blue source, that's somewhat suspect.
So turn on Flaxon of Troker on Sigarda's sides. That means that he doesn't have. Okay, he doesn't have green, so he cannot play any elves, and this should be quite sad to watch. We'll see if Nicolas François manages to play another land, but I think I saw Cavern of Soul in his hand. Okay, that's a green, but it's too late.
He'll be able to dodge the potential mana tithe from the Sigarda player.
So in Sigarda's hand, there should still be at least one plane, a Journey to Nowhere, a Vanishing Light, and we don't know about the last one.
All right, so Alan does have 5 mana on board now, so we should see Sigarda next turn, but I imagine it will be countered.
Yeah, so he still has 2 useless cards and 1 plane, and I don't know the last one. I think it's a Revocation Sage. Well, the issue is that you really have to go fast and strong against Geist, and that's really not the case. He mulliganed, he struggled with his green sources, and now he's only playing Pilgrim. If Nicolas François managed to draw a counter spell, he just cannot lose to Sigarda, and that's gonna be hardcore.
And Nicolas even has a Iganjo Castle on the battlefield now, which will allow him to prevent 2 damage to Geist, which means even a 2/2 creature is not helpful here.
Indeed. So even Nevin Mind Sensor cannot help him.
Though he cannot activate it now since the lands available are Mystic Gate and Iganjo Castle, but he does Journey to Nowhere to take care of the mana and hopefully prevent a Sigarda.
He may not have drawn any counterspell because he's killing the elf, and or his counterspells are like pay 2 more. Maybe it's a Force Spike in his hand, or no, it looks like a Brainstorm, I think.
Mother Rune's coming down. An interesting choice that will be able to block 2 damage a turn. Okay, Reclamation Sage on the journey. Okay, so we'll see if this resolves and gets him back some mana.
Yeah, I think he doesn't have any counterspell because he's hesitating a lot. Or he thinks he can just manage to win anyway.
He does have Unexpectedly Absent and Swords to Plowshares in hand, which will take care of any of Alan's creatures currently, as the Mother Runes is summoning sick.
Yeah, you don't really want to leave the Mother Runes on the board. You don't know what nasty things it could do. So that's a Brainstorm, and we still have probably 1 white to kill the Mother Runes. Or maybe he chose 1 blue. So that if he draws a counterspell, he can play it. I don't know.
I really imagine it's going to be a blue and a white floating to Swords of Plowshares and Mother of Runes. The card's very powerful.
Yeah. Well, the fact is that he has many removal spells in hand, and if he doesn't kill the Mother of Runes now, many of his cards will become useless. So in his hand, he has an Arid Mesa, Remand, and the Detention Sphere.
You said he has a Remand?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, so that's what Guillaume said. So he had a counter spell. He just chose to not use it. Oh, that's probably what he drew on the Brainstorm.
Oh, okay.
So
he'll most likely be holding on to that for Sigarda, as that'll be quite the mana sink, and just hitting it with a remand will be pretty brutal.
So he can just swing. Okay, so he's shuffling. Probably the card he put back on his library wasn't interesting. Maybe we'll see what it was. He's playing Last Petal to try to set up a turn 2 Geist. I think I saw Mother of Runes in his deck too, which is quite interesting. And not all Geist deck play Mother of Runes.
I think that makes some amount of sense after the Chrome Mox and Mox Diamond banning, because the Geist decks don't have the chance of being so explosive anymore, and you want to make sure that you're protecting your main threat. I can understand playing Mother Runes and Geist.
Yeah. Well, the issue is that Geist has X-Proof, and I tend to play only creatures with common play abilities, so that I just I'm not giving free targets to my opponents. But yeah, many Geist players still play cards like Telia, Mother of Runes, or something like that. If you start playing creatures, then yeah, Mother of Runes is a good one, I guess.
So Nicolas goes in for the attack. I don't think Alan even attempted to block, unless he's still deciding.
Yeah, but that's the Agenjo Castle on the board, so it would be losing a creature for free.
And I even mentioned that earlier, and I completely forgot about it.
That turn would be important. If he just plays Sigarda, he'll run into Remand, and that's gonna be nasty. The interesting thing is that he can try Sigarda now. He goes into Remand, and then next turn, if Nicolas still hasn't drawn any other counterspell, he will be able to have a good blocker. But Nicolas will draw one now, during his turn.
Well, we'll enter an interesting stalemate if the Sigarda does resolve, because the Sigarda has to block the Angel. He'll be at 3 after this attack, unless he chooses to chump block the Geist. So he'll have to be able to block the Angel on each successive attack, and he'll have to find another way to deal with Geist, unfortunately.
Yeah. Alan drew Strun, but he only has 1 green. And that's the issue here, because Strun would have saved him. I'm not usually a huge fan of Strun. And now we have the Serpopod from Amonkhet, which is, well, quite big, and can go through the counter spells, even if it can get killed pretty easily. Okay, so he's Shumbucking once, so that he's still at 5, and maybe he can block Geist next turn.
Yeah, they'll be at 5. He can take another Angel hit, and he tied up 2 of Nicolas' mana. That may be important for sneaking Sigarda through. I don't know how many 6-mana counterspells are playable in the format, and the answer is 0.
Well, Sigarda can still play Manatis. That's gonna be well, that probably won't be sufficient in the current setup of the game.
Nicolas still tanking. What do we got?
At least
Council's Judgment in his hand. This may be what's happening here. No, oh, True Name Nemesis.
Oh, well, that's the game. I think he didn't draw any counter spells, so he's planning on well, having to deal with Sigarda next turn. And that's a nice threat in that situation. Oh, they seem to be calling the judges. So I don't know exactly what's the issue. Guillaume will tell us.
While we wait, let's speculate. What could Alan possibly draw that gets him out of the situation? Is it Wrath of God? Do you play Wrath of God in Sigarda?
I don't think so. You play so many creatures that it's not Interesting. I think they want to confirm that what exactly Alan can do, because he has the Journey to Nowhere on hand. And I think he's hoping that when Journey to Nowhere is on the board, it works, but it only works with Miracle and not with Trin and Nemesis. So
yeah, unfortunately, the only out Alan could have really is Council's Judgment. Actually,
indeed,
it does not target.
Yeah, he doesn't play any things like Toxic Deluge or I don't know. So it's quite sad that he had to mulligan and not find any green sources early on, because that way it's just too hard for him to compete. And we could have had a real game, I think, if he was on the play with an elf and his mana right.
Looks like the draw was a Worldly Tutor?
Yeah.
I don't think that helps, though.
No, he has no way to draw, so it's Sigarda. He can manage to... You'll have to block the Angel with Sigarda and Geist with the Elf. Oh, okay. Game over.
Council Judgment coming down, name Sigarda, and that's the game, folks.
Yeah, so 2-0 for Nicolas François on round 1. So 1 win for the RC, for the rules committee. And we'll see throughout the day what happens. So the nice thing is that there's still 26 minutes left in the round. So that should leave Guillaume some time to investigate on the metagame and what the best players are playing, so that we can find more interesting matchups for the next rounds.
If I don't get to comment on a single Queen Marchesa match all day, I will riot.
Okay.
Yep, there's the handshake.
That you've already shown 10 seconds ago, I guess, in the comments. But yes, so handshake and 2-0 for Nicolas François.